I have officially decided that I'm going to be working outside because the heat in Durban, South Africa right now is crazy. I even went as far as looking at the rest of the week's days that we have left in this month of January, and it's just cruising in the 30s degrees, 31, 32. The lowest one I found was 29 degrees, and I cannot work with the heat. The fatigue makes the chronic sickness I'm working with worse. So I said, if I'm going to get anything done, then I'm just going to have to go outside and work outside. So this is the thing. In my very ambitious nature, was like, I'm going to post 2 videos a week, but I thought, that's a bit much. And so I felt, okay, I can do one video a week, and those experts as well on how to make your YouTube channel a success always suggest one video a week. But unfortunately, women, many are man's plans. I have tried. There's been just so many challenges and so many in-betweens. And also what I want to do as well is at the end of the month, what I've started to do with my journaling is I have a column where the first column is what I wanted to do, and the second column is what happened. Did I achieve that thing or not? And what I would like is that at the end of every month is for me to go through those journals with you guys, so that you can see that when you just wake up in the morning and say, no, Sihla, I just want to wake up, meditate, pray, and have a cup of coffee, and it doesn't happen, that you're not alone. And those are just the in-betweens of just trying to get through a day, or my in-betweens of just trying to post a second video, right? But today, in the end, we believe that no matter how sucky things are, somehow, some way, they work out for our good. So on today's topic, I wanted to talk about finances. Finances is one of the things that I'm in a struggle with. I was never... I didn't have a lot of finances prior. Even in my marriage, I had a business that I was working on. And so I had that which I was working on. And being in a household where the groceries are taken care of, that took a lot of pressure off. However, having left, I now have to stand on my own 2 feet and take care of all these different things. So I have been reflecting and journaling on that. And I came to a conclusion of the mistakes that I made, things that I believe had I done these things or put these things into practice, perhaps I would not be in a sticky situation as I am in now. And so these are just some of the lessons that I've learned and some of the things that I am begging you to please consider. If you are ready and you know that I'm ready to get into a very serious relationship, I see a future here. These are things you have to talk about, because honestly, love without the application of wisdom will hurt you. It will hurt you. And I know that from experience. And this is why you're here, so that you don't have to repeat the same mistakes that I made. And so, finances. There are, I believe, a couple of questions that you have to ask, that you have to discuss. And I have them down. So if I look down at my PC, I just want to make sure that I get everything done, everything spoken of that I put down, because it's very, very important. And some of these questions are, do you believe that a woman should work? How do you feel if, as a woman or as a man, I have a much higher salary than you? Do you believe in supporting family members if we have the means to? If you are a Christian, do you believe in tithing? Do you believe in giving? How do you believe the bills ought to be taken care of? Do we have the same bank account, or do we have separate accounts? Do I have access to your money at any time that I need to? And these questions are vitally important. And these are the questions as well which will make you, Siswami, determine whether is this the individual that I want to be in a relationship with. These are the things that will help make that decision easier, as to say, is this the one or is this not the one? There's something called, guys, and I am working outside, and right here It's the lounge, it's our living room, and they are playing TV. And I have considered moving across where there's no heat. I am so tired. I am so fatigued. And my hair, I have only just the front area of my hair opened, and then I've just made it look good. I have twists at the back, which you don't see. This is the best I can do. I promise you, for now. And this is me trying to carry my responsibilities while still trying to listen to my body, especially with the pain that I am going through. So please bear with me. Okay, so there is something called counting the cost. And there's this beautiful example that Jesus uses. If you, as an army captain, you have 10,000 in your army, you need to sit down and count whether and rather and consider if you have enough resources to face an army of 100,000. And if you don't, then you go to the other captain of that army and agree to terms of peace. If you are going to build a house, this is a second example. If you're about to build a building, you need to sit down. Do I have enough manpower? Do I have enough resources? Do I have enough money to make sure that I can see this thing to the end? Otherwise, you will build and then you will leave the thing halfway, and people will laugh at you and say, ha, she started building, yet she couldn't finish. And that is counting the cost. Now, Jesus used that example in terms of relationship with him, but that is applicable in absolutely everything that you are doing in your life, especially in relationships. And this, asking yourself these questions, is you counting the cost. Because once you have count the cost, once you have told yourself, you know what, I'm willing to be in a relationship with somebody who's okay with me, who doesn't want me to work. You've counted the cost. And once you get into that relationship, you don't have to be surprised. You don't have to be frustrated, because this is something you knew going in from the beginning. And the risk here, especially for us Christians who believe in submitting to a man, and the man being the head and you as a woman. Guysini, I have chickens and goats here. This is something else. But hey, wouldn't it be beautiful one day down the line, maybe at the end of this year, God willing, I can have a contrast and I can come here and say, guys, remember when you were watching my videos and you heard the chickens and the goats in the backyard, and here I am in this beautiful, gorgeous, air-conditioned office. This is the goodness of God. And also that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to try and shy away from this and get into debt trying to go to a studio. I've also counted my cost in terms of finances, that I am willing to do this. I am willing for you guys to hear the goats and the chickens in the background, because after you see that studio, once I walk you guys through what God has done, you can be able to say, if Unoseke was able to do that, holding her phone by hand, doing her videos in the beginning, surely I can start as well, So I'm hoping that this one day will provoke you, once you see the before and the after, that, man, if Unoseke did it, then I can do it as well. She started small, I can start small as well. So where was I? Okay, the issue of submission. So as for us Christians, and probably some of you guys here who are not Christians have heard of this, where a woman has to submit to her husband in everything. And if you do get into that relationship having not asked questions like this, and you find yourself in that marriage where you now have to submit, and here comes the bitterness, here comes the frustration, because you feel stuck. This is what you want to do. This is not what you want to do. But now you feel stuck. But the other thing that I would like us to address, and this is so important, is for us to be able to differentiate between submission versus manipulation and control, right? So the other thing now, we're all different. We are all different species. We are born very differently. And because of that, our passions lie very differently, which is a prime reason why we really shouldn't compare ourselves with each other. For some of you, raising children is your calling. That is what you want to do. That is what you're comfortable with. Here's my sister. Okay, thank you, Sissy, for that intermission. So, and some of you, you feel that, you were not born to work. Rather, the best or the appropriate term would be to be an employee. You believe that business is what you're called to. And for some of you, it's corporate. And that's okay, great. However, in any circumstance that you or category that you find yourself in, you have to think about your financial future. And for some of you, you may be at home not allowed to work. You have to have a talk about these financial about your financial future. And this is especially for those of you who are still at home moms, and those of you who are perhaps have agreed. Maybe you're happy with that. Maybe you both were like, yes, I believe that work is not for me. This is consistent with our goal as a couple. Great. However, you need to ask yourself, okay, so where are the finances coming for me? Because I've been there. I know what it's like to have to go and ask for, my underwears are old. I need a new pack. Right? You need to have that sort of financial freedom and a bit of independence as well. Because here's the thing, as you are working at home, as you are comfortable being at home and being a housewife, your husband or your wife, things are different these days. They are building their portfolio, they are building their business, what you call it, career portfolios, and you are not doing that. And maybe you are at home with just a matric certificate and with just a diploma. What happens? God forbid. But what happens should you divorce? How challenging would it be for you at 30, 40, 50 to start looking for a job again without any finances? So, practically speaking, for those of you who are at home, it's sitting down and saying, okay, as you are building your career, then let me get an allowance of X amount. That way, I have some financial freedom. I have some independence. I'm able to go out with my friends without having to come to you and ask for money. This is wisdom. And thank God that he's a restorer, he's a redeemer. He's able to bring back to us the years that the locusts have eaten. But there are just some things that I'm learning now that you just don't have to go through. There are just some circumstances and painful things that you don't have to go through if you are willing to do the hard work now, if you are willing to ask the difficult questions now. And including those financial questions, you have to ask that all important, very likely to be uncomfortable question of divorce. What do we believe about divorce? In the event that should we be divorced, what does that look like for us? Can we put a plan in place right now whilst all the butterflies are there? That way, should that time come, God forbid, we'll be able to do this in a respectful manner and in a way that both of us are taken care of. And the other thing is that it would be wisdom for you to ask the question of, why don't you feel comfortable with me working? It would be wisdom for you to ask yourself, is this an issue of insecurity, or is this really something that is just consistent with our goals as a family? And if it is an issue of insecurity, are you willing to dim your light now? Are you willing to forego your dreams and your calling in an effort to make the other person feel better about themselves, in an effort to make the other person feel secure about this relationship? And if you are, for how long do you think you can put up with that? And how will that impact this relationship? And so the other thing is that having your own money and striving for financial independence in a relationship, honeys, it is not the spirit of Jezebel. It is not the spirit of independence that needs to be cast out of you. It is just wisdom. And some of you may be afraid and say, no, Sihle, talk about divorce. Will I not be then inviting divorce into my marriage if I talk about it? And this is something that's important for me to talk about. I mentioned this in the first video, this hyper positivity where we cannot speak anything negative. We cannot speak anything that is bad. We only speak what is positive. And we feel that speaking anything that is negative, and it could be something that is happening to you right now. I'm sick, and you don't want to say that, oh, I'm sick, because you feel like somehow you are now coming into agreement with the sickness. Or I'm concerned that I'm going to be laid off at work. Just mentioning that somehow is you confessing that it's going to happen. And that is so further from the truth. There is a place for speaking the truth. There is a place for confessing what you want to see, but it is not in exclusion of observing what is happening in your circumstances and saying, well, this is what's happening. There is a difference between I'm sick, I've prayed, I've rebuked the pain, I've taken my medication, and I trust God I'm going to be okay. Then, or versus I'm sick, I'm going to be sick forever. Two very, very different things. So I assure you that talking about divorce is not going to invite divorce or trouble into your marriage. In the same way, having an emergency fund, which is wisdom, will not invite tragedy in your life. You know this. In this world, you will, it's an absolute, have trouble. And so a wise person prepares. And here's the thing, nobody marries to divorce. Nobody goes into a relationship hoping, I just wonder when we're going to break up. Nobody does that. We do these things looking for full term, forever, till Jesus comes back or death does us apart. And yet with those good intentions, we still hear of divorces every day. So is it not wisdom then to be on the safe side and to do the work? In the same way as having that emergency fund, it is better to have it and never need it than to need it and it is not there. Now, I'm going to say something that's gonna be a bit offensive. If your partner doesn't have the emotional intelligence, the security, and the maturity to have these hard and uncomfortable conversations, then be curious about that. And I'm hoping that because now you would have asked yourself those questions, because you would have counted the cost of what goes and what does not go in terms of a relationship that you are looking for, that you desire, that you'll be able at the instant that you see that, okay, this person doesn't want to talk about this, or when we do talk about this, they're very defensive and it always ends up in a fight, then you can then be able to say, okay, so this is not for me. This one is not for me. And for those of you who are already married, I believe the best thing to do is just to pray for that person, that God would open their hearts and you can be able to deal with these things now. And I'm not advocating for divorce. What I am advocating for is love coupled with wisdom. And with that being said, go out there, have these tough conversations, as uncomfortable as they are. Please share in the comments. Have you ever had such conversations? Did you know that you can actually be the determiner of what you want in a relationship? Have you had these conversations? How did it turn out? Are you planning, now that you know this, to have these conversations before you get married? Please let me know. And if there are topics that you want me to talk about, please share them in the comments and share your stories as well. I'm hoping that my story is bringing healing to some of you, and perhaps your story as well could possibly save a life. And share, especially with young girls, especially with young women. You do not have to make the same mistakes.